Hello and welcome to Books, History and Cups of Tea with me, Chrissy Parker. How are you on this fine, although slightly rainy day here? I hope you're having a good day. So today we're talking about book series. And this has come from a reader question, and it's a two-parter that says, why did you choose to write a series? And what does it involve? So I'll cover the first part of that verse. So I never actually chose to write a series. So I have this series called the Zakynthia Family series, which is set in Greece and it's historical fiction. And it originally started with this book, Among the Olive Groves, which was actually written about 10 years ago. And it's a very popular book. Lots of people enjoyed it. And a lot of readers started messaging me both through social media and also via my email saying, oh, we really love the book. It was absolutely fantastic. But what happened to the baby? Now, this was always going to be a standalone. It was ever only this story, which is about multi-generations. It features a granddaughter and a grandmother, and the fact that the granddaughter never knew her family history because she's adopted. And a lot of people picked up on the baby. So this would be the daughter and the mother. And the baby's called Athena. And lots of people say, but we want to know what happened to Athena. What happened to Athena? Now, Athena is mentioned in Among the Olive Groves a lot. But the story is about these two women who've never sort of really known each other, because obviously the granddaughter was, born, and so there's all sorts of things. I'm not going to go into the story. Anyway, it was about their relationships and how everything came to be. So I kind of said, no, this is a standalone. This is how it's going to be. And then the amount of times I got asked, but I want to know about the baby. What happened to Athena? So I kind of parked it in sort of one of my filing cabinets in my brain. And sort of said, well, I'll think about it, but I've got other books to write and I concentrated on, working on my schedule. And then this idea popped into my head. So this brings me on to writing a series. When you have already written a book, there is going to be a lot of things within this book that I will call threads. So these threads will all come out from different points within the story, relating to the characters, relating to the locations, relating to the periods of time, that all basically come out of that book that are very, very important. And those threads will then have to link to the next book properly to ensure that there's no plot points, that there's no errors within the story, there's no errors within the character. So for me, that was incredibly difficult, which is why the second book, because this is now a trilogy, called the Zakynthia Family series, it's why the second book, A Night of Thunder, was quite difficult to write, because firstly, I knew the last we knew of Athena, slight spoiler for the story, but the last we knew of Athena, she was on a boat this is in World War II, she was on a boat with a British airman, and they just left the shores of Zakynthos in the depth of night, and the Germans had arrived on the beach, and they escaped. So to me, in my mind, I was like, right, I've got to kind of connect this story. How do I connect this story? So I came up with using the character of the British airman to ensure that was the connectivity point between the first book and the second book. But then I also continued a lot of characters from the first book into the second book. Some of them will appear in the third book as well. And then basically make sure that everything is on the right timeline. One of the problems I had, and this is why if you're writing a series, always plan it. I decided to make Richard's fiance back home in the UK, who'd been waiting for him during the war, as a main character in the book. But the problem was her name was Alice, and I already had an Athena and an Angelos. And I didn't want another A character name. And also Alice. I didn't really like the name. The name didn't sit comfortably. So her name is Lissy. And I've worked in the reason why she's called Lissy. It's all to do with not being able to pronounce her name when she was a child. Alice, sort of thing. So anyway, what I had to do effectively was go back to Among the Olive Groves and go through it and work out all the timelines against the first book and make sure that all the vital bits of information that were going to be in A Night of Thunder, because we do cover some of the same time periods but from a slightly different perspective, I had to make sure that they matched, on top of doing the historical fiction research. So it's very, very complicated. So like I said, there are lots and lots of these threads that run through the books. And it's almost like lots and lots of different timelines. And sometimes the timelines will actually cross each other too. So it is very complicated writing a series. My editor was amazing because my editor had read the first book. So my editor read the first book and then read the second book and kind of went, well, actually, maybe, you can pick up things that way too. But one of the ways I do it now, and this is the way that I'm doing it for the third book, is that I have something called my chart. Now, lots of authors do this in slightly different ways. This is my chart I'm going to show you very quickly. So basically, I've got an artist sketch pad, which is like an A2 one. And then I do this. So I set it out in chapters, chapter 1 all the way through on both sides. And then each chapter I will put in where it is, what the year is, and a breakdown of what happens within that. I do also write a synopsis as well, because I need to know where the story is going. Obviously, the characters go, yeah, do you know what? We're not actually going to do that. And they will go off on a slight tangent and do something completely different. But writing a series can be really good fun because you get to explore the characters a little bit more. And there's lots of things in A Night of Thunder that I really enjoyed writing about. So one of those was expanding Angelos' story and how the relationship with his mother changes. Slight spoiler. And also we learn about his other daughter, Sophia, and her growing up and what her life is like. So I really enjoy that. That's what I really liked about writing the second book, was being able to jump back into characters I'd written about before who I absolutely adore. And also revisiting some of the things from the first book to say, can I just expand on that a little bit more? Can I give reasons as to why those things happened? So that's what I really enjoyed. So obviously, as I said, this was only ever supposed to be a standalone, but it has become 2 books in a trilogy. And the third book is in the process of being written. I'm about 40,000 words in. If you see this later down the line, hopefully I might have finished it by then. And that is due out sort of soonish. I am also now working on a 12-book series, which I have mentioned about in a recent radio interview, but I will come back and talk about that a little bit more. It's called the Zakynthos Nobles series. But effectively, why did I choose to write a series? Well, I didn't choose to write a series. It just happened. And sometimes that's the way that writing works. And what does it involve? It involves an awful lot to ensure that the books work well together, that everything links, that there's nothing missing, and that the readers get a lot more out of the characters that you've written, the places you've written about, and the themes within the book. So rather than the readers just having one book about these people, they can enjoy these people and learn lots more about them and just delve more into their lives and their situations, really. So that's it from me. So thank you so much. That was a great question. I really enjoyed answering that one. As always, you can find me on social media. And if you haven't already, I'm going to do a lot. I don't like doing this, but I will do this on this occasion. If you haven't read Among the Olive Groves or A Night of Thunder, they are both available to buy. So please do head on over. Available in all good bookshops and online. But have a wonderful day wherever you are. And thank you so much for popping by to Books, History and Cups of Tea with me, Chrissy Parker.